The sand of the Colosseum floor is already dark with blood when they drag her out at noon. Her name is Aurelia Tertia, and she is 23 years old, a freedwoman accused of poisoning her former master's wife. Though she has maintained her innocence through 3 days of preliminary torture that have left her unable to walk without assistance. The guards who hold her arms are not gentle. They do not need to be. The 50,000 Romans filling the seats above are finishing their midday meals, chatting with neighbors, barely glancing at the arena floor where the morning's animal hunts have concluded, and the afternoon's gladiatorial matches have not yet begun. This hour belongs to the condemned. Aurelia can feel the heat of the sand through the thin shift they have left her, her only garment, already torn from the handling. She can smell the blood and offal from the morning's kills, can hear the casual conversation of spectators who have seen this so many times it no longer holds their full attention. She can see the other condemned being led out behind her, 7 men and 3 women, all scheduled to die in the next hour, through methods designed not merely to kill, but to entertain. She does not yet know which method has been assigned to her. The magistrates who sentenced her did not specify. The arena officials who processed her this morning did not tell her. She will learn what is about to happen to her body only when it begins happening. The arena master, a heavyset man named Decimus Valerius Festus, who has supervised these noon executions for 11 years, consults his wax tablet and gestures toward Aurelia. 2 attendants approach carrying something that glints in the Mediterranean sun. It takes her a moment to understand what she is seeing. A garment made of linen that has been soaked in pitch and oil, designed to be placed over her body and then ignited. The tunica molesta, the troublesome shirt. She has heard of this punishment. Everyone in Rome has heard of it. But hearing about fire and feeling it approach your skin are different things entirely. What happens next in that arena, and what happened to thousands of other condemned prisoners across 4 centuries of Roman entertainment, is what tonight's video will reveal in detail that no classroom ever taught you. What you are about to learn has been sanitized out of most historical education because the reality is too disturbing for general audiences. You know that Romans watched gladiators fight. You have seen the movies, the heroic combat, the dramatic thumbs up or thumbs down, the noble deaths of warriors who chose to fight. That version of Roman entertainment is real, but radically incomplete. The gladiatorial matches were the main event. But before the main event came the executions, the systematic killing of condemned prisoners, using methods designed to maximize both suffering and spectacle. These executions were not hidden, shameful necessities. They were entertainment. They were scheduled. They were advertised. They were popular. Tonight you will learn about 13 specific methods the Romans used to execute prisoners in the arena. Methods that went far beyond simple killing into territory that modern forensic psychologists classify as ritualized. Torture murder with mass participation. You will learn about the tunica molesta, the burning garment that transformed condemned prisoners into living torches while crowds watched and cheered. You will learn about the damnatio ad bestias, the condemnation to beasts that was not simply being thrown to lions, but an elaborate production involving dozens of animal species and staging designed to prolong death. You will learn about the ludi meridiani, the noon executions where prisoners were forced to kill each other in combat with no armor and no possibility of survival. You will learn about the mythological executions, the theatrical productions where condemned prisoners were forced to act out fatal myths, actually dying as Icarus fell from artificial wings, actually being torn apart as Orpheus was dismembered by Maenads, actually being violated as Pasiphae was mounted by the bull. Subscribe if you want to understand what Roman civilization actually looked like behind the marble facades and philosophical treatises. Comment below, telling me where in the world you are watching from. Because Aurelia is standing in that arena with the pitch-soaked garment approaching her body, And I am going to tell you exactly what happened next, and what happened to thousands of others who died, in ways that the Roman crowds considered appropriate entertainment for an afternoon at the games. Let us begin with the flames. The burning garment was not a quick death. It was designed to be slow, to be visible, to be theatrical in ways that satisfied audiences who had grown sophisticated in their tastes for suffering. The tunic itself was constructed from cheap linen, the kind used for slaves' clothing, soaked thoroughly in pitch, resin, and animal fat. When ignited, this combination burned slowly rather than flash combusting, producing flames that consumed the victim over a period of 10 to 15 minutes rather than killing through shock within seconds. The condemned prisoner was dressed in the tunic while it was still unlit, pulled over the head, tied at the waist to prevent removal, sometimes secured at wrists and ankles to posts that would hold the victim upright as the flames did their work. The ignition was itself theatrical. Attendants approached with torches from multiple directions, lighting the garment at several points simultaneously so the flames would spread evenly. Aurelia Tertia experienced this process on an afternoon in approximately 115 of the Common Era, during the reign of Trajan. The administrative records that survive from this period, fragments preserved in later compilations, describe her case in clinical terms. Aurelia Tertia, freedwoman, convicted of beneficium against Claudia Marcella, wife of Gaius Petronius Arbiter, sentenced to arena execution. Method assigned: crematio per tunicam. Execution confirmed by arena physician at the 7th hour. The record does not describe her screaming. It does not describe the smell of burning flesh that witnesses reported could reach the upper tiers of the amphitheater. It does not describe how long she remained conscious as the flames consumed her, though medical experts who have analyzed these execution methods estimate that victims remained aware for between 3 and 8 minutes, depending on how the flames spread. What the record does note is that her execution was well received by the crowd, a notation that appears frequently in arena administration documents, indicating that the death had provided satisfactory entertainment value. The philosopher Seneca, writing approximately 60 years before Aurelia's death, described the noon executions he witnessed. I happened to return home at midday, expecting rest and relaxation after the morning's entertainments. Instead, I found something quite different. The morning fights had been merciful by comparison. Now all pretense was stripped away. The men had no armor. Their bodies were completely exposed to every blow. The crowd preferred this to the regular matches. And why not? There was no helmet to deflect the sword, no shield to block the thrust. Who needs skill when you have condemned criminals killing each other? Seneca was describing the combat executions, but his observations about crowd preferences apply equally to the burning. The Romans had developed tastes for death that was visible, prolonged, and unobstructed by the protections that made gladiatorial combat survivable. The tunica molesta was used not only in arenas, but also in private spectacles hosted by emperors. Nero famously used condemned Christians as human torches to illuminate his gardens during evening parties, the burning garments providing light by which guests could dine and socialize. Tacitus describes one such evening. To suppress this rumor, Nero fabricated scapegoats and punished with every refinement the notoriously depraved Christians. Their deaths were made farcical. Dressed in wild animals' skins, they were torn to pieces by dogs, or crucified, or made into torches to be ignited after dark as substitutes for daylight. Nero provided his gardens for the spectacle, and exhibited displays in the circus, mixing with the crowd or mounted on a chariot, dressed as a charioteer. The Christians dying as human torches were experiencing the same method applied to Aurelia Tertia, the slow combustion of the pitch-soaked garment, the prolonged consciousness, the theatrical presentation of suffering as entertainment. Modern burn specialists, who have analyzed Roman execution methods, estimate that approximately 70% of tunica molesta victims died from shock and fluid loss, rather than direct flame damage, their bodies shutting down from the trauma before the fire could complete its work. The remaining 30% died from asphyxiation as the flames consumed the oxygen around their faces, or from organ failure as their core temperature rose beyond survivable levels. None of these deaths were quick. All of them were public, and all of them were considered appropriate entertainment for Roman citizens spending an afternoon at the games. The condemnation to beasts was Rome's most famous arena execution. But what most people imagine when they hear this phrase is drastically simpler than the reality. The popular image is of prisoners being thrown to lions, dying quickly in the jaws of predators. The actual practice was far more elaborate, involving multiple animal species, staged scenarios, and timing designed to extend death over significant periods. A man named Publius Aelius Fortunatus experienced this elaboration in approximately 177 of the Common Era, during the reign of Marcus Aurelius. He was 31 years old, a merchant convicted of fraud and theft against the imperial treasury crimes that merited public execution rather than simple imprisonment. The administrative records describe his sentence: Publius Aelius Fortunatus, citizen, convicted of peculatus and furtum against the fiscus, sentenced to damnatio ad bestias in the Flavian